All right, and welcome everyone to Zenith Peak Gaming and sometimes MMA betting. This is Taylor,
And I'm Casey.
and we're here for another week of Fantasy Fight League. This week we've got UFC 284, Makachev versus Volkanovski, and apparently co-mained and two title fights, interim featherweight championship with Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett, which is completely a real belt and totally not fake. Uh,
No, they're totally not just filling the card.
how you feeling? How
What?
you feeling about this card, Casey?
To me personally, this feels like a very top-heavy card. Like, really, the only fight that I care about here is Makachev and Volk. Other than that, like, there's a few fan favorites down below that I like, but I really don't care too much.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm in a similar boat on that one. Let's see. I mean, the main card, which we're all gonna go over, is pretty cool. But we also have, I guess, Tyson Pedro is on the prelims. That's kind of interesting. Josh Kulabau was kind of a neat guy, but not like a prospect or anything. Jamie Malarkey down there. There's also women fighting on this card, so I mean, that's neat. That's new. I've never seen that before. Um, so
Ah,
yeah, main card, I guess. I kind of feel the
yeah.
same way. I think it's pretty top heavy, and it's kind of being carried by that main event, like a lot.
You got to say this though, like that main event is one of this could be one of the best and most impactful fights that we're gonna get all year.
Yeah, fun fact. I think they have like a combined in MMA like 33 fight win streak between the two of them, which is the second highest ever in the sport to clash. And I think in the UFC they have like a 23 fight combined win streak or something like that, which might be the most ever in the UFC specifically. Um, which is a lot. And I think that there just hasn't been a lot of promotion. And I mean, functionally, what Islam Makhachev actually has a real loss, Volk has a real loss, but it's okay to lose. They're just one loss each, I think. Maybe Islam had one earlier. But yeah, I think it's number one pound for pound, number two pound for pound. Champ moving up to challenge the other champ at the top of the pound for pound listing. Like it's this super fight that we always wanted, and we're kind of finally getting it. And I feel like it's just getting. I feel like there's just not a lot of media out there about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a decent bit, but at the same time, it's in Australia. It's not in any of the major venues in the United States. It's not a huge stack card, but we can talk more about that at the end. Let's get this show on the road.
All right, so the rules for the game. This is Fantasy Fight League. We have $1,000 each week that we have to bet, no more, no less. There must be at least $100 on every fight on the main card. You can place whatever bets you want on that fight, as long as there's $100 minimum on each fight, and then you can distribute your remaining money once you have your minimums put down however you want. And the highest payout at the end of the night is going to win for the week. So let's take a look at the first fight starting off the main card. We have Jimmy the Brute Crute versus Alonzo Atomic Menafield. And God, I don't know what Australian organization they pulled Jimmy Crute's sure dog picture from. I think this is, but I am just glad that they did because that is a fantastic. That's just a great profile pic right there.
Yeah, I mean he's just a lad.
So on this one, right now, Jimmy Crute is the favorite, I believe, by like a pretty good amount. I think he's like a minus 160-ish or something like that, maybe. Obviously, a lot younger. I think he's 26. Alonzo Menafield is 35. Yep. And Jimmy Crute's a little bit taller. He's a lot younger in the game. He's on kind of a streak. He's kind of like a prospect, if you will. But at the same time, he's coming off a two-fight loss streak, a TKO doctor stoppage to Anthony Smith, and then a first-round knockout by the champ now, somehow, Jamal Hill, both in 2021, and he didn't fight at all in 2022, so he took a good amount of time off to recover from that knockout loss. I don't know. What do you think?
The way that I break this one down is, yeah, Jimmy's going to be 2 inches taller, has a bit of a reach advantage. But looking at their trajectories right now, I just think that Jimmy's on a bit of a cold streak, and Alonzo just looks hot.
Yeah, putting a lot of what's it called? A lot of stock in the momentum. I feel like, I mean, Alonso's beating. I mean, he is coming off first round knockouts of Askar Mozarov and Misha Sirkunov, which it's like, what do you fucking do? But I mean, prior to his two losses, Jimmy Crute was coming off a first round submission over Mikhail Oleksiejczuk and Modestas Bukauskas, who I think is also in the prelims of this. Yeah, he is fighting Tyson Pedro. They're all first round finishes. They're not the most impressive first round finishes, but they are first round finishes. For me, it kind of goes on like the good wins for Jimmy Crute, like are what Paul Craig, Sam Alvey, who's on a 9-fight loss streak right now or something, and Paul Craig, the Michael Johnson of light heavyweight, and then Jimmy Crute actually has a loss to Misha Sirkunov. Yeah, I mean 3 years before Alonzo Menifield goes out and knocks him out in the first round. And I mean, a lot of Alonzo Menifield's wins are great, but he also is a winner over Paul Craig.
The way that I'm looking at this fight is I'm trying to think about what are the avenues to victory. Looking at previous performances, Alonzo, he can knock people out real quick, and at the same time, he has some decent performance when it comes to decisions. He's 1-2 in decisions, which I know is not great, but at the same time, it shows he can win decisions. We look at Jimmy Crute, he's got more decisions under his belt, and he doesn't really lose decisions, but at the same time, he's got pretty spread out with KOs and submissions. And it kind of comes down to the question of, do you think Jimmy's going to submit Alonzo, or do you think Alonzo's going to knock out Jimmy?
Yeah, and not that Jimmy Crute doesn't have knockouts. I mean, he's got more knockouts than he has submissions, but I just think Alonzo is a better striker. And one of the things that kind of solidified it for me was Jimmy Crute to the media was saying that, he's Alonzo Menifield's preparing for the wrong guy, and he's just going to go out there and destroy him. And I'm like, more power to you, Jimmy Crute. But
get after it, but like understand the game you're playing there.
You might not be that guy, like just
you're not that guy. Pal.
If he said
you're not that guy.
If he said, "Hey, I'm gonna go out. I'm not gonna mess around. I'm gonna take him down. I'm gonna use my strengths and impose my will on him, and fight this smartly," then I'd be like, "Okay, Jimmy Crute, like I hear you." But I think that the most important factor a lot of the time in trying to pick these matchups and figure out what the best bets are here is the fight IQ. And even though Sean Strickland can shoot a takedown in Alex Pereira, if he just doesn't, then yeah, like he's gonna lose. So I think once you weigh the fight IQ here, I think Jimmy Crute has a poor fight IQ, and unfortunately, I think he's going to continue a skid.
Sounds like he's just in the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
All right, on to the bets.
So let's see here. You have Menifield by knockout at plus 165. I just have Menifield, which is basically the same number. I know we put our picks at a little bit different times, but at plus 160. You put the minimum in this fight. I like just Menifield at plus 160. Like, I think
this is a low information fight for me. I'm not super familiar with either of these guys other than the research I've done. So this is about where I'm comfortable at.
I feel that. I can see you don't want to put them on because you're not as confident. For me, I kind of feel the same way, but at the same time, I just think that Alonzo Menifield should be the favorite. And if you're going to give me plus 160 on it, then like, okay.
Yeah, hard to argue with that.
I'll take it. Moving on. We have Justin Tafa, the bad man, versus Parker Porter.
I don't know why, but Parker's picture just has me. The first time I saw it, I was just about fell out of my chair laughing.
Parker Porter, main event. Do you know that Parker Porter lost to John Jones, and Parker Porter's John Jones' third ever MMA fight?
Really?
Yeah, I was in
okay.
In friggin' 2008, I think, or it was Parker Porter's third fight. Maybe it was later in John Jones' career. It was John Jones.
Well, we know how the John Jones story goes,
fight.
So clearly he didn't beat John Jones.
He did not beat John Jones. But yeah, then he kind of he was kind of active up until around 2011. He had one fight in 2013, one fight in 2015 when he was 6-4, and then he's gone 5-3 in the past 4 years. He came back in 2018, and just found his way into the UFC again, which is great for him. And he's 3-2 in the UFC. His most recent loss was to Jailton Almeida, who is kind of a hot prospect on his own. So, not the worst loss for a guy who's 37 and is Parker Porter. Um, but he's got
Is that man?
3 decisions before that. He lost his debut in the UFC to Chris Daukaus, which has aged poorly. Um, but at the time, people just thought Chris Daukaus was good, but maybe not. It does seem like Parker Porter's being sacrificed to Justin Tafa. That is what I feel like the UFC wants to do here. Justin Tafa's 29. He's a young Samoan. He's in, hometown crowd. Like, okay, he's from Brisbane. Like, great. My only
That
problem,
might
my only
go
problem
for it.
with that narrative is that Justin Tafa is 2-3 in the UFC. Um, he is coming off a win over Harry Hunsucker, um, but he took a whole 2 minutes to knock out Harry Hunsucker. And, like Tyson Pedro and Tai Tuivasa both got it done in just about a minute. So I'm kind of worried that he took a whole 2 minutes to knock out Harry Hunsucker. It's not like great job, good first round knockout. It's like, wow, that took you a long time.
You make
Like,
it sound like he didn't do a good speed run on hitting the
yeah,
bag.
Harry Hunsucker is like designed to be knocked out by Samoans. He literally got into the UFC, got knocked out by 3 Samoans, and then got released from the UFC. That was the only reason they brought him in.
That's
Um,
a hell of a way to go, man.
3 first round knockouts too. Yeah,
Yep.
and Justin Tafa, he was Jared Vandera's last win before Jared Vandera went on a 4-fight skid, losing to Andrei Arlovski, okay, old but still doing okay. Alexander Romanov, sure, but then Alexei Olenek, but then like Chase Sherman, Waldo Cortez Acosta, like you're just losing to nobodies, and he beat Justin Tafa, right? And then he also lost to Carlos Felipe before that. And meanwhile, Parker Porter lost to Jailton Almeida and Chris Daukaus. And like once again, like obviously the Chris Daukaus losses aged poorly, but like these aren't bad guys to lose to in the heavyweight division, you know? Like these are were, I don't know if Chris Daukaus still is, I think he was released, but these were ranked guys. And amazingly, despite the fact that Parker Porter is 37 and looks like Parker Porter and basically retired from the sport and then came back at 33 to start his career in the UFC after not having done it really for like 5 years. I just feel
Yeah.
like
I tell you what, just throw up the bets, and I've got a talking point.
all right,
Looking at
all right.
the weirdness
Let's
that
see
I
what
did.
you have to say here. What's your thoughts?
So I'm trying to play both sides of the fence here. So looking at their past, Parker Porter, he wins a good amount of decisions. In fact, he's never lost a decision.
Okay.
And if we go over to the bad man, Justin Tafa, he's never won a decision.
Okay.
Same time, Justin Tafa knocks people out, and Parker Porter has been knocked out a few times. So, with that said, we're going to bet on both of them, but very specifically. So I got $50 on Porter getting a decision, and I got $50 on Tafa getting a knockout.
Okay. I don't think that's a bad way to play it.
And the upsides are enough that one will balance out the other at
Yep,
least.
because they're both
So,
positive. Yep, they're both underdog bets.
assuming nobody submits the other, we should be fine.
Yeah, so what are you going to do when Parker Porter submits Justin Tafa in the first round?
Cry.
Yeah.
Cry as I always do.
That's what I was feeling, and that's why, like, if I have to pick someone, I really don't want to be picking Justin Tafa only for him to get finished by Parker Porter. That's gonna feel really bad. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Parker Porter is going to show Justin Tafa that there's levels to this. And somehow,
That's
some
an interesting
way,
call.
Parker Porter is on another level than Justin Tafa.
I don't know if we're gonna get the intellectual showing of different levels. I think we got the hometown boy who wants to hang and bang, and from the study I've seen of Parker Porter in some fights, it looks like he just wants to hang and bang as well. So
All right.
we're gonna get a heavyweight fight. That's all I'm gonna
So
say.
you're betting it's either a Tafa decision or a Porter decision or a Tafa knockout. I'm going with Clinic by Parker Porter. Final pick.
All right, I like it.
Next one. All
Let's go to
right.
the next one.
We've got Jack Della Maddalena versus Randy Brown, the rude boy, to complement Justin Tafa's the bad man. Um,
Bad
and then
man.
if we can get Khabib in here and he can rekindle the bad boy nickname that he started off with, we'll really have the ultimate trio.
Where did he get the eagle?
I don't know. He started off as the bad boy when he was a young kid, a young gun. But yeah, I kind of like both these guys. Like, I know Jack Della Maddalena's the new
I'm right
hotness.
there with you.
I,
I like both these guys a lot.
I
This is the second most exciting fight on the card for me.
yeah, yeah. I I know Jack Della Maddalena is the new hotness. Um, he's coming off 3 first round knockouts in the UFC. That's great. He's young, 26, hometown, from Perth. Like, I don't know if you know this, but he's 13-2. Those 2 losses were his first 2 fights in MMA, which I think is fantastic. You hardly ever see guys
Yep.
go to the top who start off with 2 straight losses in their career. Like, it never happens like that. So I think that's a super cool story. For him to encounter adversity and maybe he's not doing that great at this, and then to come back and figure it out. I hope he gets to the top. He's got that different knockout power, like
The guy's just red hot right now.
I could
There's no other way to put
I
it.
could see him getting
He's
to
on
the
a
top.
tear.
Yeah, but then at the same time, Randy Brown doing pretty good. He's doing okay. He's on a 4 fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on a 4 fight win streak. Not the biggest names, but I think he's starting to talk about maybe getting a ranked opponent after this.
Yep, I see it.
My concern for Randy Brown here, who I like and is a good fighter, I think. His losses are to Vincente Luque and Nico Price. And yeah, back in like 2017, Bilal Muhammad, who cares? um, Vincente Luque just comes to bang, man. He's not the best at it, but he comes out there to do it. But you know who might be the best at it? And not the literal best, but up the top there? Jack Della Maddalena.
Guy can crack.
I think Jack Della Maddalena goes in there, and if he were to fight Vincente Luque, I think Jack Della Maddalena wins. He swangs and bangs better. And if swanging and banging from Vincente Luque was enough to beat Randy Brown, then I think that swanging and banging from JDM is enough to knock Randy Brown out. Now I wouldn't be amazed for Randy Brown to pull off any kind of victory here. Honestly, he's got a lot of different ones under his belt. I could see him pulling off any of them. But if I had to put my money on it, if I had to say how this fight was going to go down, I think that it's the Jack Della Maddalena knockout. Maybe in the second round.
I could see a first round knockout. It's Jack in his own hometown. He already hits harder than most of these other guys out here, and with just that extra boost of just like having your hometown crowd behind you, I think it's just going to put him into that superhuman category, and he's just going to go just whoop him.
Yeah, I think we're on the same thing then. So let's look at our bets. So you have Della Maddalena by KO for 200.
Yep,
that's a minus 115.
That's a that is a according to Vegas, this is a sure bet.
I don't know whether minus 115 is a sure bet, but
well, it's favorited. How about that?
It is favorited. Yeah, I think.
How about this is the smart choice, and I'm even trying to swing for the fences a little bit on this one.
That's fair. I could see Randy Brown taking Jack Della Maddalena to a decision as well. I could see him just being careful enough and getting to the point where Della Maddalena is not going to go in there and just knock him out. So that's why I was kind of like, I kind of didn't want to put on a knockout for Della Maddalena because I'm leaving some respect for Randy Brown on the table. I don't like the fact that I have to put it down at a minus 325. I don't know that Jack Della Maddalena should be that much of a favorite, but I do think he's going to win, so I'm not going to put the money somewhere else, unfortunately. And like I said, if I had to put money down, I'd pick Jack Della Maddalena, and I do have to put money down, and it's $100, and that's all I put. So
Fair enough. This one for me was kind of one of those bets where I was like, I already made the bet, and I was like, shoot, I gotta throw an extra $100 somewhere.
Yep.
All right, it's this guy's taking it.
Yep, I feel ya. All right, reasonable pick. Let's see to the co-main event, which is Yair Rodriguez, El Pantera versus Josh the Fighting Foulmare Emmett. God,
that is an accurate portrait.
That portrait's just too good looking, so we'll have to transition it here. Ugh.
There it is. There it is. I see no difference.
I'm so glad that man has grown up.
Corporate needs us to find the difference, and they're the same picture.
I'm so glad that man has grown out a beard. It's done wonders for him.
That's true.
It's done absolutely. He still looks kind of weird, but not in the same creepy, uncanny valley kind of way. Anyway, these two guys. Emmett, what is he? He's 37, man. Damn, Emmett's 37. Yair Rodriguez.
What a 5-fight win streak, though.
Still young, 30. We'll get to that. Sure. Why don't we start with Emmett then? Josh Emmett, 5-fight win streak. Okay. Got knocked out by Jeremy Stevens back in 2018. Beats Michael Johnson. Okay. Mirsad Bektik. Okay. Shane Burgos. Okay. Dan Ige. Okay. And then beats, finger quotes, Calvin Kattar. I would say has a good fight with Calvin Kattar that he lost, but whatever. He got the judge's nod that night. A lot of people talk about Emmett's power and his knockout power.
Do you think they're wrong?
I do.
Does the 10 decisions say that they're wrong?
Yeah, I do. I think that he got a couple knockouts, and they're like, oh, it's the knockout power, and it's like, it hasn't historically been. He got a few knockouts, like, good job, but I just don't think he hits that much different.
Correct. Here's how I look at it, though. We're in featherweight. Not as many knockouts historically in this division. At the same time, though, like, he still hits hard, and anybody that is in the UFC is going to hit hard. At the same time, all of these guys are also going to have chins. So chins combat the knockout power. So to really like put people away in the UFC, you really got to just be next level.
Yeah.
Is he next level? I don't know. Is he good? Absolutely.
Yeah, Rodriguez has 5 knockouts. Emmett has 6, and Yair Rodriguez has 2 less fights and is 7 years younger. That's all I'm saying here.
He also,
that's all I'm saying.
Yair Rodriguez also has 5 inches on him, so that's nothing to shake a stick at either.
And listen, Emmett obviously went 5 rounds with Calvin Kattar. He made it a fight. It was good. I was impressed. Calvin Kattar got slapped down famously by Max Holloway. A lot of that was a Styles thing, but Yair Rodriguez put on a very competitive fight against Max Holloway.
Yeah. At the same time, though, go ahead and throw up the bets. I got something to say about El Pantera.
Right. What do you think about El Pantera?
I think Emmett's going to beat him because I think Yair Rodriguez is on a bit of a downslope, despite being, was it 5-1-1 over the last 5 events in the last 6 years? Let's go through it. He beat Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie, good fighter. Yeah. Is he the best? Not really.
I think
no contest against Jeremy Stevens, then beats Jeremy Stevens. Loses to Max Holloway, arguably one of the greatest featherweights of all time, and then beats Brian Ortega because of a shoulder injury. I think I look back at the Jeremy Stevens fight, and I think about Jeremy Stevens, and if we pull up Jeremy Stevens' record, Jeremy Stevens has had 1 win in the last 5 years.
Bro, that's the real hardest hitting 145-pounder right there.
I don't know who that guy is.
Jeremy
Stevens.
Stevens.
Who is that guy? Who the fuck is that guy?
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, he went on like a 7-fight skid or whatever. Okay.
At the same time, beating Brian Ortega after Volk put a clinic against him, it's a wow wee wow. Like, they're good opponents. The opponents are not as good as they always once were, so that's why I'm kind of discounting them, and that's why I think Emmett's going to take it.
All right. Here's my thing. Emmett gets beat by Kattar. Kattar's just a better Emmett. As my opinion, that's just true. Um, Max schools Cater. I know we're doing a little MMA math here, but Yair Rodriguez is a good fight against Max. He was schooling Brian Ortega before Brian Ortega got beat. You know, took care of Jeremy Stevens good. You know, I know he was losing to the Korean Zombie. I think the Korean Zombie, even though Volk embarrassed him, then we're going to go into my reasoning on the next fight here, but I think the Korean Zombie was better at the end of his career than we're giving him credit for. I think that he just got by Yair Rodriguez, you know, with basically no time left in the fight. I mean, 1 second left in the fight, crazy spinning up back elbow on a fight that if I remember, he was going to win, and then he gets beat by Volk, but Volk just looked so good against Max Holloway, and just like he couldn't be submitted against Brian Ortega after that. Now, either all of the top of featherweight just isn't really that good, and they're just, you know, so bad that they're making Volk look good, which I don't believe. Could be true,
Nope.
but I don't believe. Or, you know, like they're all pretty good, and I just don't think Josh Emmett is at that level. And the way that Josh Emmett's been fighting and the way that he's been talking, he's like, he's been saying, I've got different power. You know, he's going to feel my power, and I'm going to come out there and he's boxing with them. And I don't know why, I just have a feeling, I just have the vision of my head of Yair Rodriguez just landing just a clean head kick knockout as Emmett like overextends on a punch. Like Emmett just thinks like, you know, like I'm gonna scare him, I've got to make him respect me, and I think Yair is gonna be like, okay, and he's gonna slip a head kick in there and just flatline him, send him straight to the Ghost Club. So that's why I do have my $100 on Rodriguez, but I know there's not a lot of evidence to support this. I just stylistically, I just feel like it's gonna happen. I've also got 50 on Rodriguez to win by knockout. Plus 275.
Fair enough.
Take it.
It seems reasonable, but we'll see. We'll see how this one shakes out for us.
Indeed, we will. All right.
All right, main event time.
Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski. Man,
These are two big names, and they have never been as good as they are right now.
yeah.
We have Islam Makhachev, who just dethroned Charles Oliveira, who we looked at Charles and we thought, who on earth can beat this guy? Like, Charles just kind of like out of nowhere came out and just next leveled everybody at the top and just held on to that belt, even though we thought like he was just going to drop it like at the first opportunity. And then we got to that point where it's like, all right, yeah, Charles is good. Like, who beats this man? And then Islam Makhachev submits the man who we thought could not be submitted. Now everyone's staring at Islam Makhachev like, fuck, this guy's good. Who beats this guy?
I feel you on this one. About the beating. Okay, so like, listen, Islam Makhachev dominates Tony Ferguson. Okay, not Tony Ferguson. Charles Islam. He dominates Bobby Green, right? He just out wrestles Bobby Green, out wrestles Dan Hooker. Eventually out wrestles Thiago Moises. Eventually out wrestles submits Drew Dober. Okay, took him 3 rounds to do it. Goes to a decision against Arman Tsarukyan, which is aging well for Arman Tsarukyan. I don't think he just says much though. Knockout over Gleison Tibau. Now that's pretty impressive actually, but that's a much older Gleison Tibau. But like that win over Charles Oliveira is just way better than any of his other wins, right? Like, way better.
I can see that, yeah.
You know, and here's the thing about the win over Charles too. Like, it wasn't that Charles Oliveira was out there dominating guys. It was that, damn, he just finds a way to win. Michael Chandler. I was like, damn, I can't believe Charles Oliveira won that fight. I thought it was finished, and then he just caught him on the chin, and Michael Chandler just went down, and sometimes that's how it goes. Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier had him rocked early on. I think that if Dustin had...
That one's going to be one of the more controversial fights for sure, because second round, he advances position due to grabbing the glove, and then proceeds to to beat him mercilessly for the entire round,
Right. And
basically wearing him down for that third round where he actually sunk the choke in and got him.
and absolutely won the fight for him. But even besides that, like, I think that if Dustin had just been willing to follow Charles to the ground when he had him rocked, because Charles does that thing where he gets rocked and he just falls down and is like, "Oh no, I'm so hurt,"
Oh,
but then he's like, "Don't step into
dojo."
my guard." But I'm like, "But what if you just did though? You know, what if you're just like, I'm just gonna go down there and beat the shit out of you?" Because that's worked well for people historically. You know, even Paul Felder.
Yep.
And people were just scared to do it. And then Justin Gaethje, same thing. Knocked him down, what, 2-3 times in that first round before eventually getting submit? But, like, listen, I know Justin Gaethje's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, like, less than white belt level. Like, I could submit Justin Gaethje, you know? But, like...
This is true.
Maybe when he had him hurt, he could have just gone down there, been on top, and just gotten it done, man. You know? But, like, people are just like, oh, that's okay. Like, you can recover. I'll wait. And then Islam Makhachev was just like, no, I'm just going to go down, and I'm going to be like, oh, I've rocked you. I've dropped you. I'm going to finish the fight now. And he did it, and it wasn't like, oh, my God, this grappling is so high level. Like, he's just... Charles Oliveira is trying to do stuff, but just can't. It was like, oh, he just, like, stepped over and submitted him. Like, Charles Oliveira wasn't even, like, ready to respond. He actually was hurt and wasn't just playing possum. And so I'm looking back and I'm like, what I thought the first with Michael Chandler, Justin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, all three of them was like, damn, they should have finished that fight and they just didn't somehow, you know? And so now I'm kind of like, okay, like, not that Islam Makhachev isn't really impressive, but I'm just not convinced that he's the level of dominant that people are making it out to be right now. And do I think he's a top of the world class fighter? Do I think he's a championship level fighter? Absolutely. But Alexander Volkanovski, totally different pedigree. Beats the shit out of Jose Aldo.
Real quick, before we shift off Islam, I got one important stat I want to throw out here.
What's that?
So, but when we were looking at going into the Oliveira Makhachev fight, we were talking. One of the points that I brought up that I think is still relevant is talking about time on the ground in what position. Obviously, Oliveira and Makhachev both enjoy being on the ground and trying to submit people, but Oliveira actually had like 5% more time on his back at like a 45-55 split. Makhachev has a 95-5 split of time on top versus bottom, meaning that we've never really seen Makhachev on defense on the bottom, and I think that for as much credit as we give him as a grappler, I think that might be an undiscovered Achilles heel right now. Obviously, he is Khabib's protege, so he's going to be phenomenal on the ground, but I think there still might be an avenue of attack to get it done down there.
I completely disagree on that one. I know that we haven't seen him on the bottom a lot. I think that's because he doesn't stay on the bottom very long.
I can't think of like any time he's ever been in the bottom that I can remember.
You don't go grappling with those Dagestani guys and be like, oh, I don't have any way to deal with somebody trying to put me on my back, because everybody he trains with is trying to do that.
Yeah. All right, fine.
That's my.
Let's go over to Alexander the Great.
All right, we're saying beats Jose Aldo, has a trilogy with Max Holloway, and once again, like, has a great fight against Brian Ortega. And looking back with Korean Zombie too, like, I'm just looking at it and I'm like, the way that Alexander beat Max Holloway, I'm just kind of like, in that last fight, and the way that Max Holloway beat Yair Rodriguez and Calvin Kattar, and still these top guys. Like I said, either all of the top of featherweight just isn't that good, or they're good. Max Holloway is just better, except Volkanovski is even better than him. And
I gotta say that's the one. Like, looking at the people that he fought, like Brian Ortega, he fought T-City, I think, at the prime.
Yeah.
Even as like that was when T-City did his best to try to put him in a triangle. He was cranking on his neck so much that it looked like Volk's eyes were gonna pop out of his head. Somehow scrambles out of that and then goes on to win, even just keep winning. And then next we have Korean Zombie, where personally I think he looks the best. Volk looks the best in this fight just because he looks so dominant. It gets stopped in 4 rounds after Korean Zombie is basically just out on his feet, just trying to stand up. And Volk is just, it seriously was like the first minute of the 4th round after Volk looked at him and said, "You good, mate?" And then he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then proceeds just to like throw 5, 6 punches, just clean flush. And then Korean Zombie's just out on his feet. And I want to say it was Herb Dean in that fight. Herb just steps in and just calls it off right there. And is like, "Yep, there it
That's
is."
all I needed
Like,
to see. Yeah, and
and then Max Holloway 3 opens up Max's face like more than I have seen any other fighter's face open up. The only other comparable thing was when like Mike Perry's nose was in a literal like C, like a 180-degree turn C, and then Max Holloway's face was cut so deep that I swore you could have seen the bone at some point. It was, and he just looks so good. And at the same time, those are all great opponents, but Volk is just even better.
yeah, and this kind of thing with especially Brian Ortega and Chan Sung Jun is kind of like we're like, oh, I guess they're just done. Like I guess they're just not going to make it. But like, what if Bulk is just so good that you're just making them look that way? You know, like Korean Zombie just doesn't look like he was being. You know, it's not like he was having a bad end to his career. I think he retired, right? Maybe he didn't. But you know, like yeah, he lost to Brian Ortega, but maybe that just says good things about Brian Ortega. Like maybe Volk is just like out there, just really making these guys who are at the top of the top of the heap look bad. And I know that Islam did that to Charles, kinda, but he kind of just made Charles look like everyone else made Charles look, except Charles didn't pull the win out of his ass this time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why I'm kind of like,
All right.
and back to the fight IQ thing. Volk's got the high fight IQ. He knows what he's got to do. He knows how to get
Absolutely.
in there and get her done. I know he's training with, like light heavyweights for his wrestling, and he said he's like, listen, if you want to beat the Dagestani wrestling, you can't train like you're training with a normal wrestler. You have to train specifically for the way that they wrestle. Otherwise, your wrestling training isn't going to help, and that's what people have been missing. And that's the kind of thing I want to hear. I don't want to hear Islam
Yep.
Makhachev going, I am going to go knock this guy out, this short guy. And I know maybe he's just having a little fun with it, and he's not going to do that, but I think he is. I think he's going to go in there and try and stand and bang with him to start. And I think Volk's just going to be too fast for him.
I think he might be. I think it's tempting because in this one, obviously Islam is the heavier fighter. Volk is coming up. So it's kind of tempting to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm bigger than this guy. Why can't I just sit here and just knock him out? Like, Volk is a chin, and he's just fast and he hits hard. And I think that thinking that you're going to stand there and be able to beat up Volk is kind of that's a unwise move. But at the same time, I think Makhachev might have enough wisdom in the corner if Khabib is there to tell him, like, no, stick to the game plan.
Well, Khabib's not there in the corner. Don't forget.
True. All right. I think there's an important factor about this fight that we haven't talked about yet, and that is, well, I just alluded to it, but it's Volk is going up to Makhachev, which leads me to ask you, how much do you think Makhachev cuts for his fights?
Like 30 pounds, dude.
30? How much do you think Volk cuts for his fights?
Normally, I think like 25.
Like, Volk just looks like this massive ball of muscle. I would not be surprised if he cuts just as much, if not more, than Makhachev.
I think he said he walks around like high 60s, like maybe 170 or 170s. I don't think he walks around like 180 or anything.
Just a unit. I think so. We actually have a good comment in the chat from one of our viewers, Commissar Kira, and I think he makes a very good point here, which is that Volk is going to get crushed if it goes to the ground early, and that Volk needs to go to the championship rounds. And I agree because of the weight difference. Islam's primary weapon is going to be the grappling and the wrestling. This kind of is giving me a bit of flashback to when Adesanya fought Blachowicz, and Blachowicz just sat on him for 3 rounds just because he was just so much of a bigger guy, and he could just take him down and just hold him there. I'm wondering if that's going to be kind of a similar story, which is that Islam wants to take him down, and he just wants to lay on top of him and just hold him there.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. Let's go to the bets, and you can explain to me your reasoning for why you put down what you put down here.
That's fair. I put down some weird stuff.
All right,
I'm not gonna lie.
Let talk to me about this.
So, uh, I put $300 on Makachev getting a submission. Again, this kind of goes back to avenues of attack or paths to victory for me. How does Makachev win? He can technically knock people out. Is he going to knock out Volk? Unlikely, which means he's probably going to go for either a submission or a decision. And if we look over at his opponent, Volk does very well going to decisions. He just has a never-ending gas tank, and he just looks good the entire time. So I think decision is not great for Makachev. It is good for Volk. Again, Volk can also put people away. Makachev did get knocked out as his one and only loss, so I don't know if that's too much to read into, but I do think it's possible to knock out Makachev. We have not seen him just have an incredible chin beyond belief. I just think that a lot of his game plan has just been so offensively good that he doesn't really need to have a chin. So that's kind of the avenues of attack, is that Volk can win by taking it to a decision, beating him up, staying away, staying elusive, touching him up, or just getting that clean knockout after just like wearing him down and then delivering the final blow. And then again, alternatively, the betting lines will also agree Makhachev is a big, heavy favorite. I think right now he's sitting at like minus 315 just for the straight money line. So that's why I did what I did. I'm hoping that, looking at it, I think the payoffs for each of these bets will be large enough to outweigh the other one. Just so long as Volk doesn't submit Makhachev, I'll be okay.
I don't think Volk's going to submit Makhachev. I do think that, so for me, I do think Volk has the fight IQ on this one. And I put a lot of stock in the way that fighters are going into their fight and what's going on with them personally, and what their plan is. I know that Islam's very disciplined, and he's like, I don't need Khabib in the corner, and he's got Javier Mendez there. Volk just seems like he knows what he has to do. He seems very clear about, hey, I am not training with, American-style folk wrestlers. I'm training with people who are wrestling like Dagestanis. And
Yep.
that's kind of where my pick lies here, is that I think at some point, every era of this sport has to come to an end. And Khabib had his era. That was the Dagestani era. I don't think that he gets to continue with Islam Makhachev. I think people are like, okay, this is the guy at the top now. We've already seen the way that, these guys have worked for years. I think that at some point, somebody has to figure it out. And I just don't think that there's anybody better to figure it out than Volkanovski. So
That's fair. At the same time, though, as much as I want to see that happen as well, like personally, I think watching Khabib and Islam fight is pretty boring. I'm just not a fan of the way that they do it. I'm probably asking for something a little too flashy to be real, but it's just personally, I'm not a huge fan. So I would love to see the Dagestanis right off into the sunset say, yeah, we had our time and it's time to go, but I don't know if they're there just yet. Like, Islam just took the belt. I don't know, as good as Volk is, I don't know if he is the correct guy to defeat Makhachev, but at the same time, the way that I'm kind of seeing this fight is like unstoppable force versus immovable object. Islam has looked unstoppable, and Volk has just looked so solid that we just don't know how he loses. Could be getting submitted by a guy in a different weight class. Maybe not. We'll wait and see. I will say this, though. For your bet, I think Volk at plus 310 is a bit too far out there on the odds for me. Like, I think Volk is probably closer to like a plus 200.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's exactly why I was like, you're going to give me plus. It's like when they were giving us like plus 400 on O'Malley versus Jan. And I was like, get out of here. That's
like, yes,
free money.
But it's not that much. Like,
all
right.
Well, I guess we're going to find out in a couple days. Let's look at our potential payouts if we are flawless this weekend.
I will not be flawless because I have conflicting bets.
I assumed that your highest payouts would be the ones that are getting paid out.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so I thought that I was going, and for those of you just joining us, we started with $1,000 total to be spread over the 5 fights in the main card. I I thought that I was going conservative this time around. I was like, hey, like I'm gonna be conservative with my picks. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not trying to guess the method. I'm just gonna go with money line bets, simple stuff, and just get her done. And somehow, I'm still took a riskier payout than you did somehow.
Still swinging for the fences a
and
bit, huh?
and you picked
This
like
is how it always goes, though.
you picked methods on like every fight.
I know. Well, I picked methods, but even then, like a lot of the methods I picked were still like plus 150, plus 180.
Yeah.
And it seems that a lot of some of these fights are pretty skewed when it comes to the odds. Specifically, if you look at like Volk and Makhachev, like it's just such a spread. But I don't know. I tried to get as close to even money as possible on a bunch of them to try to feel good about it. But at the same time, I feel decently good with the picks. Like I feel like the way that I'm thinking about it, when thinking about how people are going to get the job done, I think it makes sense. I'll put it that way. But then again, when we're trying to do MMA math, nothing matters and everything's made up.
Yeah, you got to do like MMA like differential equations.
Not the Diffie Q. Oh god. Who do you think is going to be the best fight on the card? Who do you think is more likely to have an underdog upset? Let us know. We can chat about that. For me personally, obviously, top fight on the card is the most exciting, and then after that, I want to see Jack Della Maddalena just go in there and just rock the place and just knock out Brown in like a minute or two, and just stand over him hand raised.
I think that's not unlikely to happen. In fact, I think that's an extremely likely outcome. I didn't bet on it specifically, but just the general Jack Della Maddalena win. Yeah.
I might be putting a little too much stock in it, and I know I'm a bit of a fanboy for the Kiwis, but I like how the fighters think, and I like how they train together and what they come out and perform with. And I think having a UFC event in their backyard is going to just turn it up to 11 and just give them the time to shine and really just light the place on fire. What are yours? What fight are you looking forward to the most?
I think I want to see Yair Rodriguez head kick KO the Fighting Falmer. I think that's going to be the most exciting moment of the night for me.
That would be sweet.
But my heart really wants to see Volk just go in there and be like,
and just end the Dagestani era.
Just end the era. Just usher in the new reign. You know, like
put the Kiwis in power.
Pound for pound #1, lightweight belt, double champ status. Let's go.
I would love to see Volk get champ status. That'd be so cool.
It's not often that you get the kind of talent and active talent like Volkanovski that has the potential to, eventually set those kind of Jose Aldo, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva type records, and maybe this is the guy to do it while doing the double champ thing.
I think he's on the trajectory. It's definitely possible.
That would be cool to see.
What do you think the biggest underdog opportunity is going to be, or who's most likely?
Best underdog pick on the main card?
Yes, our underdogs are Menafield, Porter, Brown, Emmett, and Volk.
All right, just best underdog to win, regardless of how much of an underdog they are.
Yeah.
I think
Parker Porter? Is that your guy? Is that the one?
Once again, I can't believe I'm saying this.
I'm saying Menafield.
I just think Parker Porter. God damn it. Parker Porter.
You just think the bad man is too bad?
Parker Porter is going to show that there's levels to this.
Dear God. Ridiculous. All right, well, let's see if he puts on the clinic.
I cannot wait to come back from this with just an absolute Parker Porter striking clinic where he just knocks down Justin Tafa after 3 rounds of dominance and gets a submission in the 3rd round and just ruins your bet. Just ruins it.
Or that would ruin it. I say it'd be kind of funny if he just did a little bit of what Dan Hooker did on his last fight, just like, yeah, knock the guy down. Just like, yeah, stand up, knock him down again. Yeah, come on, get up, knock him down again.
Oh my god.
And they just get in there and like armbar for the win
That's
or something.
Right. Striking Clinic from Parker Porter, best underdog bet. God, if only Justin Taffa were any good, I would feel much better about decisions.
Look, all I'm saying is, he's got a chance. He's got a chance.
It's a chance. Parker Porter ain't no Harry Hunsucker.
It isn't the Samoan punching bag, or punching bag for Samoans rather. How about that? All right, you good?
I'm good. This has been.
Thank you for watching Fantasy Fight League. This is our pre-fight show for UFC 284 coming up in New Zealand. We got Alexander Volkanovski hopefully going to end the Dagestani era. And we will be catching up with you after the card to talk about our picks, how much fake money we lost, and why none of what we say ever makes sense. So, till then, I'm Kaci.
And I'm Taylor, and we'll come crying about our lost money to you after the card. Thanks for hanging out.
Good night.